The morning shift on mining station Kepler 7 started like any other for Ben Torres. He walked through the metal corridors, his boots making soft sounds on the deck plates. His uniform was clean and pressed, the security badge on his chest catching the artificial lights that lined the walls. Ben had worked this job for 3 years now, keeping peace between the different species that came to trade at the station. Today was different though. Today, the Zephyrian Empire was sending their queen for important talks with the human government. Ben had never seen a Zephyrian before, but he had heard stories. They were tall and graceful, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow in certain lights. Their empire controlled 12 star systems and had technology that humans could barely understand. Station Commander Rodriguez had called all security staff to a meeting earlier that morning. She stood at the front of the briefing room, her face serious as she looked at the 20 guards gathered before her. "Listen up, everyone," Rodriguez said. "Queen Vela arrives in 4 hours. This is the most important diplomatic event our station has ever hosted. I want perfect behavior from all of you. No staring, no questions about their culture, and absolutely no incidents." Ben raised his hand. "Commander, what should we know about Zephyrian customs?" "Good question, Torres. They value respect above all else. When the queen passes, step aside and lower your eyes. Don't speak unless spoken to. Their translators will handle any communication needed." Rodriguez paused, scanning the room. The future of human-Zephyrian relations might depend on how well this meeting goes. After the briefing, Ben returned to his patrol route. He walked past the docking bay where maintenance crews were preparing for the royal ship's arrival. The bay had been cleaned until it gleamed, and fresh air filters had been installed to ensure perfect atmosphere for their guests. Dr. Sarah Kim, the station's head of alien relations, was checking the welcome area one final time. She noticed Ben walking by and waved him over. "Ben, I'm glad you're on duty today," she said. "The Zephyrians appreciate human military bearing. Your grandfather was military, right? It shows in how you carry yourself." Ben nodded. "Navy. Though he disappeared during a deep space mission when I was young. My grandmother always said he had the explorer's spirit." "Well, that discipline will serve us well today," Dr. Kim replied. She looked nervous, constantly checking her tablet for updates. "The Queen's ship just entered our system. They'll dock in 90 minutes. Ben continued his rounds, making sure all the security checkpoints were functioning properly. The station felt different today. Usually, there was a casual atmosphere among the workers and traders. Now everyone moved with purpose, speaking in whisper voices as if afraid to disturb the preparation for the royal visit. When the Zephyrian ship appeared on the view screens throughout the station, Ben stopped to watch like everyone else. The vessel was beautiful in a way that human ships never were. It looked more grown than built, with flowing lines that reminded Ben of ocean waves frozen in metal. The hull seemed to shift colors as it moved, reflecting the light of the nearby star. Docking procedures initiated, came the announcement over the station's communication system. "All non-essential personnel please clear the main corridors." Ben took his position near the central hub, where the delegation would pass on their way to the meeting rooms. Other guards stood at attention along the route, creating a respectful corridor for the visiting royalty. The airlock hissed open, and the first Zephyrians emerged. They were indeed tall, perhaps 7 feet on average, with the pale blue skin Ben had heard about. Their clothing seemed to be made of material that moved like liquid but held its shape perfectly. They walked with a fluid grace that made human movement seem clumsy by comparison. Then Queen Vela appeared, and Ben understood why the Zephyrians commanded such respect across the galaxy. She was taller than her escorts, probably 7.5 feet, with silver hair that seemed to float around her shoulders. Her skin had a subtle glow, and her large eyes were the color of deep space itself. She wore robes that shifted between blue and purple as she moved, and a simple crown that looked like it was made from captured starlight. The queen walked with confidence, acknowledging the human officials who had come to greet her. Her translator, a smaller Zephyrian who stayed close beside her, converted her melodious language into clear English for the humans to understand. "Your station honors us with its welcome," the translator said, speaking the Queen's words. "We come in hope of friendship between our peoples." Commander Rodriguez stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we are honored by your presence. Allow us to escort you to the conference center." The group began moving down the corridor, passing the security guards who stood at attention. Ben watched the procession approach, impressed by the dignity of the alien delegation. The Queen moved with a kind of floating walk that barely seemed to touch the ground. Then something unexpected happened. Queen Vela's eyes found Ben's face, and she stopped walking. Not a gradual slow down, but a sudden complete stop that caused her entire entourage to halt in confusion. Her large eyes widened, and her mouth opened slightly as if she had seen something impossible. Ben felt uncomfortable under her stare but maintained his professional posture. He had been trained not to react to unusual behavior from alien visitors, but this felt different. The Queen was staring at him with an intensity that made his skin feel warm. "Your Majesty?" Dr. Kim asked, concern clear in her voice. "Is everything all right?" The Queen did not answer immediately. She continued to stare at Ben, and he could see her hands beginning to shake. The other Zephyrians moved closer to their ruler, speaking in their own language with worried tones. Finally, Queen Vela spoke, her voice so quiet that the translator had to lean close to hear her words. When the translation came, it was just one word, Kai. The name meant nothing to the humans present, but it clearly meant everything to the Queen. She took a step toward Ben, her eyes never leaving his face. Her breathing had become rapid, and the glow in her skin seemed to be pulsing with some strong emotion. "Kai," she said again, this time louder. The translator looked confused and spoke rapidly in Zephyrian to his Queen, but she waved him silent. Ben felt he should say something, but Commander Rodriguez had been clear about not speaking unless spoken to. The silence stretched uncomfortably as everyone waited to see what would happen next. Queen Vela raised one long-fingered hand toward Ben's face, stopping just short of touching him. "You have his face," she whispered, and this time the translator's voice carried the wonder and pain in her words. "His eyes. His." She said something in Zephyrian that made her translator hesitate. "His scent signature," the translator finally said, looking embarrassed. "Forgive me, but our people identify others by unique biological markers that your species may not understand." Dr. Kim stepped forward carefully. "Your Majesty, I think there may be some confusion. This is Ben Torres, one of our security personnel. Perhaps you're thinking of someone else." The Queen's eyes never left Ben's face. "What is your full name?" she asked him directly. Ben looked at Commander Rodriguez, who nodded permission for him to speak. "Benjamin Torres, Your Majesty. But everyone calls me Ben." "Your family," Queen Vela continued. "Tell me about your family." This was getting strange, but Ben answered honestly. "My parents died when I was young, Your Majesty. I was raised by my grandmother. My grandfather disappeared during a deep space mission before I was born." The Queen's reaction was immediate and dramatic. She stepped backward as if struck, and several of her guards moved to support her. The glow in her skin became brighter, and she spoke rapidly in her own language. The translator looked uncomfortable but did his duty. The Queen asks what was your grandfather's name, and what was the nature of his mission. Ben felt confused by the personal questions but saw no harm in answering. "His name was Kai Torres, Your Majesty. He was part of an early exploration mission into uncharted space. His ship never returned." The effect of these words on Queen Vela was like watching someone receive news of a miracle and a tragedy at the same time. She made a sound that needed no translation, a cry of pain and recognition that echoed in the corridor. Her legs seemed to give way, and her guards caught her before she could fall. The human delegation stood in shocked silence, not understanding what was happening but recognizing that it was something profound and personal for the alien queen. After a moment, Queen Vela straightened and composed herself with visible effort. When she spoke, her voice was steady but filled with emotion. Kai Torres was not lost in space, the translator said, speaking her words. He crashed on our world 32 years ago. He lived among us. He learned our ways, and we learned his. He became. The translator paused, clearly struggling with concepts that did not translate easily. He became my mate. My partner. The father of my heir. The human delegation exchanged shocked glances. This was clearly information that no one had expected to hear. Queen Vela continued speaking, her eyes still fixed on Ben's face. Kai ruled beside me for 7 years. He brought new ideas to our people, helped us solve problems in ways we had never considered. Your grandfather was respected and loved by our entire empire. Ben felt as if the ground had shifted beneath his feet. His grandfather, who had been nothing more than a name and a few old photos to him, had apparently lived an entire second life among aliens. Had been married to this queen. Had ruled an empire. What happened to him? Ben asked, forgetting protocol in his shock. Pain flickered across Queen Vela's features. There was a disaster at one of our mining colonies. A collapse trapped hundreds of workers underground. Kai insisted on leading the rescue mission personally. He said it was his duty as a ruler to risk himself for his people. She paused, struggling with the memory. The rescue was successful. All the workers were saved. But there was a secondary collapse. Kai did not escape. The corridor fell silent except for the hum of the station's life support systems. Ben tried to process what he had just learned. His grandmother had always said his grandfather was a hero, but she had never known how true that was. Dr. Kim cleared her throat gently. Your Majesty, this is clearly a difficult situation. Perhaps we should postpone the diplomatic meetings until... No, Queen Vela said firmly. The talks will proceed as planned. But first, I must speak privately with Kai's grandson. There are things he should know. Things about his grandfather, and about the legacy he carries. Commander Rodriguez looked uncertain. Your Majesty, Ben is just a security guard. He's not part of the diplomatic team. Queen Vela's response carried the authority of someone accustomed to command. Kai's blood runs in his veins. He has his grandfather's face, his manner of standing, even his scent. In our culture, this means he carries Kai's spirit forward. He is part of any discussion about the future between our peoples. Ben felt overwhelmed. An hour ago, his biggest worry had been making sure the diplomatic visit went smoothly. Now he was apparently central to the entire event, connected to a grandfather he had never known and a history that changed everything he thought he understood about his family. I would be honored to speak with you, Your Majesty, he said, finding his voice. But I don't understand why I matter to these talks. I'm nobody special. Queen Vela smiled then, the first time her expression had held warmth since seeing him. Your grandfather said something very similar when he first came to our world. I'm nobody special, just a pilot who got lost. But Kai proved that humans possess something our empire had forgotten. The ability to see solutions where others see only problems. The courage to risk everything for people who are not your own kind. The wisdom to unite different groups through understanding rather than force. She gestured to Ben with one graceful hand. You stand here wearing the uniform of a protector, willing to serve others though you gain little from it. You asked about your grandfather not for glory, but because you wish to understand. Already, you show his spirit. Ben felt a strange sense of recognition, as if pieces of a puzzle he had not known existed were falling into place. Stories his grandmother had told him about his grandfather's character, his sense of duty and fairness, suddenly seemed connected to something larger than one man's life. Your Majesty, Dr. Kim interjected diplomatically, perhaps we could arrange a private meeting after the formal sessions. The other delegates are waiting, and... Queen Vela nodded slowly. Of course. But I ask that Ben Torres be present for the discussions. His perspective may prove valuable. She looked at Ben again. Kai often said that humans see connections others miss. Today, we face problems that require new thinking. Perhaps his grandson can offer insights that neither empire has considered. The procession resumed its movement toward the conference center, but everything had changed. Ben walked alongside the diplomatic party now instead of watching from the sidelines, still trying to understand how his quiet life had suddenly become connected to interstellar politics. As they walked, Queen Vela spoke quietly to him, her translator conveying her words. This afternoon, I will share with you memories of your grandfather. Our people have technology that preserves experiences in crystal form. You will see how Kai lived among us, how he thought, how he approached problems. It may help you understand why your presence here today feels like a gift from the universe itself. Ben nodded, not trusting his voice. He thought about his grandmother, who had died 2 years earlier, still wondering what had happened to her husband. If only she could have known that he had found love and purpose among the stars, that he had become a leader and a hero to an entire alien civilization. The conference center doors opened ahead of them, revealing a room where the future of human-alien relations would be decided. Ben had entered this day as a simple security guard. Now he walked forward carrying the legacy of a grandfather he had never met, toward discussions that might change both their species forever. He thought about Queen Vela's words regarding his grandfather's ability to find solutions and unite different peoples. As they entered the room where two civilizations would attempt to build a bridge across the vastness of space, Ben wondered if he had inherited more than just Kai Torres's face and bearing. Perhaps he had also inherited the responsibility to continue his grandfather's work of bringing different worlds together in understanding and friendship. The conference room buzzed with quiet activity as delegates from both species took their seats around a large oval table. The human team included Ambassador Chen, Dr. Kim, Commander Rodriguez, and several trade specialists. The Zephyrian delegation consisted of Queen Vela, her chief advisor Lord Nexus, Military Commander General Thyra, and the ever-present translator. Ben sat in a chair that had been quickly added to the table, feeling out of place among the diplomatic officials. He wore his security uniform while everyone else was dressed in formal attire suitable for interstellar negotiations. Queen Vela had insisted on his presence, but he still did not understand why his opinion would matter in discussions about trade agreements and territorial boundaries. Ambassador Chen opened the meeting with prepared remarks about friendship between species and mutual benefits. The Zephyrians responded with similar diplomatic language about cooperation and respect. Ben listened to the careful words and formal phrases, thinking about what Queen Vela had said regarding his grandfather's ability to see connections others missed. The first hour covered basic trade proposals. The humans wanted access to Zephyrian energy technology, while the Zephyrians were interested in human manufacturing techniques and food production methods. Both sides presented detailed charts and economic projections, but Ben noticed something the formal presentations did not address. During a break in the sessions, Queen Vela approached him. "What are your thoughts so far?" she asked through her translator. Ben hesitated, then decided to speak honestly. "Everyone is talking about what each side wants, but no one is discussing what each side fears. My grandmother always said that understanding someone's worries is more important than understanding their wishes." Queen Vela's eyes brightened with interest. "Explain what you observe." "The humans keep mentioning security protocols and safety measures," Ben said. "They are worried that Zephyrian technology might be too advanced for us to handle safely. But they cannot say this directly because it sounds like we are admitting weakness." He paused, glancing at the Zephyrian delegation. "Your people keep asking very specific questions about human manufacturing processes and quality control. I think you are concerned that human-made products might not meet your standards, but you cannot say this because it would sound insulting." Queen Vela translated his observations to Lord Nexus, who looked surprised. They spoke quickly in their own language before the Queen turned back to Ben. "Kai used to do exactly this," she said. "He would listen to what people did not say as much as what they did say. How would you suggest we address these unspoken concerns?" Ben thought for a moment. Maybe instead of negotiating what to trade, we should start by working on a small project together. Something where both sides can learn about the other's capabilities and standards without big risks. When the session resumed, Queen Vela asked permission to share Ben's suggestion. Ambassador Chen looked skeptical, but agreed to hear the proposal. Ben Torres suggests we begin with a joint project rather than formal trade agreements, Queen Vela announced. A collaboration that would allow both species to understand each other's methods and capabilities. Dr. Kim leaned forward with interest. What kind of project did you have in mind? Ben felt all eyes on him. He had not expected to be put on the spot like this. Well, this mining station has some old equipment that could be upgraded. Maybe human and Zephyrian engineers could work together to improve the life support systems. It would be useful for the station, and both sides could see how the other approaches technical problems. General Thyra spoke in Zephyrian to Queen Vela, who nodded thoughtfully. Our military commander suggests this is a wise approach. Small steps before large ones. Trust built through shared work rather than words alone. Ambassador Chen considered the idea. It would certainly be less risky than major technology transfers. Commander Rodriguez, what do you think about using the station as a test site for cooperation? Rodriguez looked at Ben with surprise and approval. It could work. We do need upgrades to several systems, and having Zephyrian technical assistance would be valuable even beyond the diplomatic benefits. The mood in the room shifted from formal negotiation to collaborative problem-solving. Both delegations began discussing technical details and timelines for a joint project. Ben felt relieved that his suggestion had been helpful, but also nervous about the attention he was receiving. As the afternoon session concluded, Queen Vela invited Ben to her private quarters aboard the Zephyrian ship. I promise to share memories of your grandfather, she said. Our memory crystal technology will allow you to experience some of his time among our people. The royal ship's interior was unlike anything Ben had ever seen. The corridors seemed to be carved from single pieces of material that glowed with soft light. The walls curved in organic shapes that reminded him more of caves than mechanical construction. Everything felt alive and flowing rather than built. Queen Vela's quarters were spacious and elegant, with furniture that seemed to grow from the floor itself. She gestured for Ben to sit in a chair that adjusted to his body as he settled into it. From a cabinet that opened with her touch, she retrieved a small crystal that pulsed with internal light. This contains preserved experiences from Kai's early days on our world, she explained. Place your hand on the crystal and allow the memories to flow into your mind. Do not fight the sensations. You will see through his eyes and feel what he felt. Ben touched the crystal, and immediately his vision changed. He was no longer sitting in Queen Vela's quarters but standing in a crashed spacecraft on an alien world. Through his grandfather's eyes, he saw the ship's broken systems and realized that escape was impossible. The memory shifted, and Ben experienced Kai's first encounter with the Zephyrians. They approached the crash site with caution, their tall forms moving gracefully across the rocky landscape. Ben felt his grandfather's fear mixed with wonder as he tried to communicate with beings unlike any he had ever imagined. The crystal showed him how Kai learned the Zephyrian language, not through formal lessons but by working alongside them to salvage useful materials from his crashed ship. Ben watched his grandfather earn respect through his willingness to work hard and his refusal to judge the aliens by their strange appearance. Another memory revealed Kai meeting Queen Vela for the first time. She had been younger then, newly crowned and facing challenges to her authority from traditional nobles who opposed change. Ben felt his grandfather's immediate attraction to her intelligence and strength, and her gradual recognition of his unique perspective on problems. The crystal showed him scenes of Kai adapting to Zephyrian culture while maintaining his human identity. He learned their customs but also shared human approaches to engineering and organization. Ben watched his grandfather help design new mining techniques that increased productivity while improving worker safety. One memory particularly struck Ben. Kai was mediating a dispute between two Zephyrian clans that had been feuding for generations. Instead of trying to determine who was right, Kai suggested a completely different approach. He proposed that both clans work together on a project that would benefit their shared community. The success of this collaboration ended the ancient conflict and established Kai's reputation as a wise counselor. The final memory in the crystal showed the day of the mining accident. Ben experienced his grandfather's determination to personally lead the rescue mission despite the dangers. He felt Kai's relief as the trapped workers were brought to safety, and then his grandfather's acceptance as the tunnel began collapsing around him. When Ben lifted his hand from the crystal, he found tears on his face. Queen Vela was watching him with understanding and sympathy. "Now you know the man who lives on in you," she said softly. "Kai brought something to our people that we had forgotten. The ability to find solutions by bringing different groups together rather than choosing sides." Ben wiped his eyes and tried to process what he had experienced. "He was braver than I am. I do not know if I could have done what he did." "Courage is not the absence of fear," Queen Vela replied. "It is acting rightly despite fear." Kai was afraid many times, but he never let that fear prevent him from helping others. Before Ben could respond, alarm signals began sounding throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, and announcements in Zephyrian echoed through the corridors. Queen Vela moved quickly to a communication panel and spoke rapidly with someone on the mining station. "What is happening?" Ben asked. "Raider ships have entered the system," Queen Vela explained, her calm demeanor shifting to alert readiness. 3 vessels of unknown configuration are approaching the station. They are not responding to communication attempts. Ben's training kicked in immediately. "I need to get back to the station. My security team will be organizing defensive measures." "The docking tube has been sealed for safety," Queen Vela said. "We cannot return to the station until the threat is resolved." Ben felt frustrated and helpless. His colleagues were facing danger while he was trapped on the royal ship. Then he remembered something from the memory crystal, a moment when Kai had coordinated Zephyrian and human workers during an emergency. "Your Majesty, could your ship work together with station security to handle this threat? Zephyrian technology and human tactics might be more effective than either alone." Queen Vela considered this suggestion, then moved to another control panel. She spoke rapidly in her own language, and Ben heard responses from what sounded like ship commanders. "General Thyra is aboard one of our escort vessels," Queen Vela explained. "I am asking her to coordinate with your station's defense systems. But your security team will not know how to work with our ships effectively." Ben thought quickly. "What if I could communicate with both sides? I know station protocols, and I watched how my grandfather coordinated different groups in the crystal memories." Queen Vela looked at him with the same expression she had worn when first seeing his face. "You would do this? Act as coordinator between our forces and yours?" "It is what my grandfather would have done," Ben replied. Within minutes, Ben found himself in the Zephyrian ship's command center, wearing a communication headset that connected him to both station security and the Zephyrian fleet. Commander Rodriguez's voice came through clearly from the station. "Ben, where are you? We need all security personnel at their posts." "Commander, I am on the royal ship, but I can help coordinate our defense with Zephyrian forces," Ben explained quickly. "They have weapons and shields that could protect the station, but they need to understand our defensive strategies." "This is highly irregular," Rodriguez replied, but Ben could hear weapons fire in the background. "The raiders are using some kind of jamming technology that is interfering with our targeting systems." Ben relayed this information to General Thyra, who responded through Queen Vela's translator. "Our sensors can penetrate their jamming, but our weapons systems are not compatible with station defenses." An idea formed in Ben's mind, inspired by memories of his grandfather's problem-solving approach. What if the Zephyrian ships act as the eyes, and the station acts as the weapons? General Thyra could provide targeting data to our gunners. Both commanders initially resisted the idea. Working together required trust that had not yet been established. But as the raider attack intensified, practical necessity overcame hesitation. Ben found himself translating not just languages but strategies and concepts between two very different military traditions. The Zephyrians favored fluid, graceful tactics that flowed like water around obstacles. Humans preferred direct, structured approaches that relied on coordinated firepower. Station gunners, Zephyrian sensors show 3 targets at coordinates I am transmitting now, Ben relayed. General Thyra suggests focusing fire on the lead ship's engine sections. Confirmed, Ben, came Rodriguez's reply. First barrage firing now. The combined strategy worked brilliantly. Zephyrian sensors provided precise targeting data that human weapons could use effectively. Within 30 minutes, all 3 raider ships had been disabled and were surrendering to the combined fleet. As the immediate danger passed, Ben realized that something significant had happened beyond just winning a battle. The two species had worked together successfully, each contributing their strengths to achieve something neither could have accomplished alone. Queen Vela placed a gentle hand on Ben's shoulder. Kai would be proud of what you did today. You found a way to unite different forces just as he once united different clans. Back on the station, the diplomatic talks resumed with a completely different atmosphere. The successful defense had proven that human-Zephyrian cooperation could work under pressure. Both delegations were eager to formalize the partnership that had emerged from necessity. Ambassador Chen addressed Ben directly. Your coordination during the crisis was exemplary. Have you considered a career in diplomatic services? Ben looked around the room at faces both human and alien, all focused on building a bridge between their worlds. He thought about his grandfather, who had found his destiny among the stars by being willing to help others despite differences. I would be honored to serve as a cultural liaison, Ben replied. My grandfather helped bring our peoples together once. Maybe I can help continue his work. Queen Vela smiled, the first completely happy expression Ben had seen from her. The universe has strange ways of continuing important stories. Kai began something beautiful between our species. Through you, that story continues into a new generation. The formal agreement signed that day established not just trade relationships but a new model for interspecies cooperation. The joint project Ben had suggested became the first of many collaborative efforts between humans and Zephyrians. As Queen Vela prepared to return to her empire, she gave Ben a final gift, a smaller crystal containing more memories of his grandfather, including recordings of Kai speaking directly to the crystal about his hopes for the future. He spoke often of the family he had left behind on Earth, she explained. Somewhere in these memories, you will find words he meant for his descendants. Words about courage, about building bridges between different peoples, and about the responsibility we all share to make the universe a better place for those who come after us. Watching the royal ship depart, Ben felt a deep sense of connection to a grandfather he had never known but whose legacy lived on through him. Kai Torres had crash-landed on an alien world and found love, purpose, and a way to serve others across the barriers of species and culture. Now Ben Torres stood ready to continue that work, helping humanity take its place among the stars not through conquest or dominance, but through the uniquely human gifts of adaptability, cooperation, and the courage to see friends where others saw only strangers. The mining station around him hummed with new activity as human and Zephyrian engineers began working together on the first joint project. In the months and years ahead, this small station would become a symbol of what was possible when different peoples chose understanding over fear, cooperation over conflict. Ben touched the memory crystal in his pocket and smiled, knowing that his grandfather's spirit lived on in every bridge built between the stars.